Shall we begin? Hello everybody. Welcome to the Video Multimedia Group meeting with OpenScholar on video. We have Brianna Pennington here and also Nalaja, thank you, McCoy. Bree is going to be kind of here for the overview of the platform, and Nalaja is more content and video specific. So welcome and enjoy.
Great, okay, so welcome. Today we're going to talk to you about OpenScholar and video. So what is Harvard Web Publishing? Harvard Web Publishing is pretty much a group of three different groups. HPAC, and Nalaj is actually technically with that group. Hewitt, and I'm technically with that group. And then the IQSS group that developed OpenScholar, the software. So OpenScholar, the software is Drupal installation, and Harvard Web Publishing is the department. And so a lot of people call the platform, or the HWP platform, or the OpenScholar, and it's all the same thing. But Harvard Web Publishing, we provide a lot of different services, including the platform itself. We do content strategy guidance, web project management formation, and then we offer training, support, and hosting services. And then I'm going to just tell you that we do support all of these different video providers, so YouTube Video, Blip, Brightcove, and Ustream.
And many more.
And many more, that's true. So while we don't host the videos on our platform itself or on our software itself, we do integrate in with all of these providers. And so with that, I will give it to Nalasha, and I'll be sitting down here in case anyone has any questions.
All right. So basically, as Bree mentioned, and just to sort of recap for anyone who's just coming in, the OpenScholar platform doesn't have any built-in video hosting. The reason for that is because we sort of made the decision to say, okay, well, there's a lot of services out there like YouTube, Vimeo, Kaltura, what have you, that do a really good job of that. So we can sort of focus our resources and time and energy on other things that aren't being met by other CMSs or platforms. But basically, long story short, is everyone familiar with Embedly tools? So if it's an API for embedding and sharing content. So many of the common video providers like YouTube, Vimeo. There's actually, if you go to this URL, and we can share this presentation, you can see all of the providers that we do support. And so this is an overwhelming screen of all of the ones that were tagged with video. So if, again, anything like, Brightcove, Ustream, any of the common video hosting providers, you can go ahead and embed those in your OpenScholar site. We do also support Kaltura, which is a popular one for sites like the Gazette. So this is just a screen grab from the Faculty of Arts and Sciences site. They typically will embed content from the Gazette, and it works out pretty well for them. It's pretty simple. Basically, in a nutshell, and just a show of hands, how many people have used OpenScholar? Okay, so a good, more of sort of majority of the room. But just a quick overview, if you hadn't done this before, or if you're brand new to it, basically you're just going to grab the embed code, whether it's something from YouTube or SoundCloud or whatever sort of media service. You'll grab that embed code, and then once you have that, there's a few different things you can do with it. You can either just add it to a page. We have a pretty straightforward WYSIWYG editor where you can just add your content, add your video content or audio content to the page. And this is just a quick screen grab, but if you go to our documentation site, there are, you can walk yourself through the details of how to do that. And the end result, this is just a simple page from the Origins of Life initiative. You have your video embedded on the page. You also have the option of putting your video into what we call widgets, so it basically appears as a block. Again, there are a couple of ways you can do that, and that's detailed in the OpenScholar documentation. But the end result is, again, sort of what you saw on the Faculty of Arts and Sciences website. This is just a screen grab from our own site. You get a little video in a block that you can sort of manipulate as you want, put it on different pages, that sort of thing. And then our the other option that we have, this is a relatively new feature. We're still working on refining the aesthetics and UI for this particular piece, but we have what amounts to a video content type. And so this is going to be more helpful if you have large quantities of video where you need to be able to enter metadata that's associated with the video, tag it, title, descriptions, and then once you've added your videos, you have a little more flexibility in terms of how you display them. So you could have them in a list view or a grid view like this, and you can play around with the display a little bit more. If you were ever trying to embed something on your OpenScholar site and you get an error message about an untrusted domain, you can just email our support and they can help you take care of that. Basically, we would just need to, on our end, whitelist the URL, so then if you have some other place where you're hosting your video and you'd like to integrate it, we can help you out with that. So don't worry if you see that, we most likely will be able to resolve that. Regarding where to host your content, again, referring back to the documentation site, since we don't have a built-in hosting option, if our clients or users come to us and want to know, well, hey, I have these videos, where should I put them? We usually suggest one of two places. If you have video content that's intended for a wide audience, you really want it to get a lot of page views, maybe it's an interesting faculty speaker or other academic topic, maybe students discussing their work, those kinds of things, and it has pretty good production value, then we would encourage you to reach out to Harvard Public Affairs and Communications. When they're responsible for the main Harvard YouTube channel. So if you go to the Harvard Guidelines site, you'll also find information about who to contact over there and things like the specs about how to actually submit your video for consideration. But they are always interested in new content, provided it fits that criteria. And then sometimes you might find yourself in a situation where you have content that's really more for an internal audience. Maybe it's training videos for staff, that kind of thing. It's really not meant to be seen by the world at large and should sort of only be contained in your website. In that case, then we typically tend to recommend Vimeo, just because it has a little more protection and a little more flexibility. You could do videos that are not private videos on YouTube, but in the research that I've done, I think the Vimeo option works a little bit better, just because that way you know that the video, if you go with their paid version, which is something like $50 a year, you know that your video is nobody else is going to happen across it anywhere online unless they come to your website. So if you have that kind of a situation, Vimeo could potentially be a better option. And then again, just to sort of recap, and we can send this out, these are resources we have available. So if you go to the OpenScholar documentation site, we have all the details about how to add video to your site. We also have a link to some academic video production resources. I'm sure that this group is relatively familiar with those, but we did come across a good list, so that's included. And then a little more detail about those hosting options, or hosting suggestions rather, that I just mentioned. And then if you go to the Harvard Guidelines site, that has all the details about how to submit your video for consideration for the Harvard YouTube channel. It also has tips for video compression. They only want to work with files that are either in MOV or MPEG-4 format, so we have just some tips and guidelines for their specs, and also just some general tips for video production as well. They also have downloadable toolkits if you need things like a Harvard branded lower third. So there's a lot of nice resources to check out there. And that was everything that I had. Bree, did you have anything else that?
Not particularly. I mean, if anybody wants to see like real versions of it, we could like navigate to sites and log in and kind of look at the back end, whatever you think.
Or if any of you in the room, like I know some of you are Harvard Web Publishing clients, or you have sites on the platform, if you're interested maybe in either, I don't know, sharing what you've done or just your experiences or
So I think
suggestions.
it just depends on what people want to see, because these are just the details. Because we're talking about being able to embed these things from other platforms, our piece of it is not that complicated, luckily. I mean, good for the user. Yeah.
So I really was excited. I went to the OpenScholar meeting, which is why I asked Bree if we could have you guys come and speak with us. And the part that I really was excited about was the fact that you're encouraging us to upload to Vimeo and to YouTube, or iTunes U, or whatever it's called
Right.
now. Whereas before I'd had issues in terms of dealing with, legalities of the content being released.
Oh, interesting.
So I found it really interesting that, Harvard seems to be kind of encouraging us to publicly, obviously, release things. And I don't know if that's because of the advent of edX and HarvardX, but
What do you mean by legality?
just meaning in terms of, content, owning content.
That this content belongs to Harvard and therefore shouldn't be on a public video site?
Yeah, I mean, basically, most of my stuff has been on private servers and
Right.
released that way, because we'd have to get certain permissions to be able to put them up online. And I know that the outreach series that we did got released for it, but I think things have changed and kind of gotten up to speed in terms of being able to easily release material, whereas it used to be a lot more red tape. So I mean, I feel like the fact that, so you haven't run into that at all.
I mean, I would say, at least in our experience, just because, we're not going to be in the business of providing official legal counsel. I mean, we have seen that it varies on a department by department basis. And so, there are situations of where either due to, rights or that department not wanting to have content on a platform like YouTube, they still need to, have some sort of a more protected option. And the other thing I just want to note, in addition to things like rights, I mean, I think it's a best practice just in general to be safe, to, make sure that you have speaker clearances. So I know at least on the HPAC side of things, I don't think that they're going to say, okay, well, like, we need to collect all of your paperwork. I do think it does say on the guidelines that you should have the rights, but that's really left up to a department by department level. Neither, I think HPAC nor Harvard Web Publishing will be chasing down paperwork and releases for anybody.
And this,
so.
and the same thing goes for images. There's a good way to use images on the web, and then you could steal all of them and then post them on your site. And we can't control that part of it too. So I think we've just opted to give all of the facts, and the OGC has tons of different release documentation on their site. So we work, actually, Harvard Web Publishing worked on their site as well. So I know there's information on how you can get clearance there. And then Massachusetts isn't it? You have to before you film anything or record anyone, you have to like disclose to like the people in the room. I think that there's a state level and then there's a university level, but as our platform goes, we're not in the business of policing it. So I think we're
Right.
Yeah, and I think one other thing, just to add, I actually recently had a conversation with somebody over at IT Security asking about this, because they had a very specific use case wanting to know, well, we're reviewing potential faculty interviews, I think the situation was. And so for something like that, if it's an issue of you know, I guess either confidentiality or intellectual property. Again, I think like IT security would be the place to channel that, to make sure that, you know, are you hosting the video in a way that's going to be secure enough?
And because there's not, I mean, clearly OpenScholar doesn't have a video platform component to it, but there's also not a Harvard video hosting service that's for general use. It's either you're using a commercial service, whether you have to pay for it or not is a separate question. You're using one of those, or you're basically like providing your own server on.
And
is that right?
yeah, and well, the other thing, I don't want to speak too much for Shimon's group, who, you know, also in Hewitt, but I do know that there have been conversations around sort of university-wide Kaltura licenses. Again, I can't represent that end of it, but I do know that some schools, like I think the Kennedy schools, using Kaltura. HPAC also uses Kaltura for the Gazette. So it does seem like they're moving in the direction of that being more of a widely supported option, but I'm not sure where those negotiations are, and I do think that those are also decisions that might have to be made on a school level. So maybe, you know, FAS or the Kennedy School or the Vinny School or whoever winds up negotiating a contract.
There's actually a 2-year contract with Kaltura.
Oh, there. Okay.
So I'm Leah, and I'm from DBS, so I'm actually just using Kaltura at the moment. But it's still a 2-year contract, and we're still paying for it.
Is it a blanket contract for the university-wide or departmental?
There's only certain amount of campuses that we have, so
Okay.
they've already been allocated to the schools.
Okay.
But like if you were in FAS, say administrative department, and you wanted to, you would contact DVS?
Yes.
So you're talking here about Kaltura as a service, meaning hosted, yeah? That they're hosting.
Yes, we're looking into it, but I mean, we're still looking at a slew of other things as well, so it's still in the works.
You mean it's not locally installed?
It is.
Or it is local?
Is it?
Or
I'm sorry, I can't remember if it is or not. It could be hosted on their site as well. I can find answers for you guys.
Is there a way to secure an OpenScholar page? My department has a page, and I wanted to host 5 faculty interviews, or there's no
Not
way to
on the
secure
page
the
level, site level only right now.
there is one trick I can share if anyone is interested. We did similar situation in medical school. We had not interviews, but yeah, it's actually like interviews, but they didn't want publicly posted, and we didn't want to pay for Vimeo. So what we did is created a shared account, like a Gmail account, and we distributed to everybody, like all the faculty, and then we made this video private to this account only. So then people who knew the password of this particular account, I mean,
So they were on
adoption-
YouTube, but you
Yeah.
had to have the YouTube username and password
Yeah.
to get at the videos.
Yeah.
And another, you know, point to another option for that sort of a situation is, I do believe that the new version of SharePoint is supposed to also, I mean, it's a little clunkier because, you know, you sort of need to upload a video file, and then if, say, 5 people need to view it, they could download it to their computer and watch it that way or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I think in general for OpenScholar, most of our sites, we do offer the ability to have, you know, pin protection at a broad level for a site as a whole or for documents, so you can, you know, it's basically just the Harvard community, but it, you know, it's not super granular to say, okay, well, we can only restrict it to, you know, these people with these roles in this department.
But when it comes to video, since it would get to be embedded on the OpenScholar site anyway, if someone were to somehow get the URL that was embedded in the page, they would probably be able to watch that video without signing into the page. You know, I mean, for things that are short term, that might be sufficient. You know,
against a malicious hacker.
I mean, you know, because you would have to still know like the exact URL, and if the normal way of getting that URL is by visiting the page, and to visit the page because this page was a part of a site that was PIN authenticated, that would.
So it depends on security settings of the video too. Like I said, for example, with YouTube have two settings. You could be unlisted or private, which I mentioned was private, so you
Right.
have to know the password.
But then you're like, I mean, that's kind of a hack, right? I mean, to like temporarily create a Google account and distributing the password, and how do you do that safely? And
It's
stuff
also
like
only
that.
as secure as your user base, right? Because anyone
Right.
who you give the
Yeah.
access to that account can then share that video if they choose to, because they have admin access.
They can't share unless they give password. I mean,
Right, and they can change the permissions of that entire video.
yeah, but the proper way actually actually get everybody's Gmail accounts
Right.
and then restrict to them. But that was
Right.
hassle. Some people
Exactly.
don't have it, they don't want to have it. So that's what we did this workaround. And so far we had like I don't know about 50 or something people over a few months. Nobody really did anything.
Right.
To
No,
this
I mean,
account. I mean, it's like faculty scientists. They don't do something.
Well, I also like the fact that you can also do custom so say I have something on the server, I can just contact you if for some reason it's being blocked.
And it gets whitelisted.
The video, what did you call it? Type or
Content?
Yeah.
you're talking about the metadata,
Mm-hmm.
and so within OpenScholar you added what? What's it called? When you're not just embedding a video, but you actually want to have like information about it.
It's we have these things in OpenScholar, not to get too caught up in the language that we use, but we have these things called content types, and
Okay.
this isn't officially a content type because there are other things you can use it for, but basically I think the most clear-cut way of thinking about it is you have a little unit of video, right? So which consists of your embed code to actually show the video, and then also a title, a description, and any tags that you want to attach to it.
Does it have a thumbnail too, or for the sake of creating one of these like little video
It does generate one, yeah, and there are some things on that feature that if you're playing around with it, they still need to be finessed a little bit in terms of how it actually looks, but yeah, it will just generate a thumbnail, and I'm not sure if it's just the same as, like, say if you take it from YouTube, I'm assuming it's probably the same, thumbnail that would have been generated for YouTube, that sort of thing.
How about transcript? Is that something that could be a part of the video content type, or?
It's not on our site. I mean, YouTube and most of these video hosting providers do have the capability to upload transcripts, but
Right. But those are
yeah, it's
presented as
not.
captions as opposed to, like a page of the entire text.
Oh yeah. I mean, we don't have that built-in functionality, but I mean, you certainly could include either like a link, or include it in line, or as a PDF, or
Yeah.
that sort of a thing.
How does it look on a mobile platform? I forgot with OpenScholar, how supported it is on mobile platform, but in the context of video, like the video, wrapper or API that you have, how does it behave?
Well, the OpenScholar themes, the newer ones that have been created by Harvard Web Publishing, those are all responsive, and so you don't have to do much of anything. They will work and resize to work on tablets and mobile phones. And then, I mean, as far as video goes, I mean, I think that there shouldn't be that much. I mean, and we have sort of tested these. I've seen them on iPhones and iPads. It should pretty much just follow suit as if you went to if you go to YouTube, or same thing with Kaltura. I know they have Flash versions and then HTML5 versions. So I think it just automatically is going to serve up the correct version.
So along those lines, so it is responsive video within the OpenScholar then.
Right, because it's sitting inside of a block, the widget, and then that widget will scale. So anything inside of that, we could test it, and we could pull up one of the
Yeah.
examples and kind of test it.
Oh wait, I have to lock.
Oh, sorry. Like Nalasha was saying, so when she gets me in, what we can do is we can pull open a site that's set at a responsive theme, and we can just resize
the window and we can just do it right here on the fly.
I'm thinking, let me see. You could just try the HWP site.
Yeah,
But
we have a
even that,
video on
yeah.
there. It's on the about page.
Oops, see, now my thing is zoomed in here, so it's already, so.
I think it's actually sitting on the about page. So we have our own YouTube video. So we're using a video here, and so if Elijah grabs the corner, we'll just confirm that.
And so
We've got
this
some
is
scaling.
the mobile phone version, and then tablet would be, oh wait, let me see, is this one, yeah, this is tablet, or full screen. So the menus collapse and you'll see that then the frame for the video will shrink down to a certain size.
So we'll talk about just the themes in general. So if you just thinking about using the themes that are responsive, kind of just wrap it up with themes. So we've got these featured themes in the appearance panel of the add-in toolbar. And so we've got these featured themes that sit across the top, and they're mobile-friendly themes using the Harvard color palettes. And each one of them has some kind of an accent or a flavor. And so we're using HWP Classic for our site and Conservative, but we could switch it. And as you can see, when you switch, it gives you a picture of what it might show up to be. And then we've got the sites underneath, or the themes underneath, called Other Themes, other themes. They haven't been upgraded in a long time. Some of them are going to be retired, and we are going to continue to grow these themes and flavors within them. So if you are using OpenScholar, you might want to check to make sure that you're using a featured theme. And before they were responsive, just to kind of go a step further, in settings, there technically is a checkbox saying enable responsive behaviors, because before they were all responsive, you could opt to try out responsive. So this still exists technically in the settings area, but it's more historical. So what other questions do we have about maybe live sites or example sites, or how this works? We can go to the about page and kind of look to see, to show you what's happening on this page. So as you can see, we've got the about page, we've got the video sitting here, and then we've got some content. And so if you look at, if you hover over the side of these content boxes, you'll see that this is a widget, and then this is a widget. And I only know this because it's allowing me to kind of pull down. I see the word widget, and the same thing with this. It's a page, but technically, it's a widget on a page. So if I look at the layout of this, how this page sort of works, you're going to see that, this is the testimonial video. This is where the page content lives right underneath it. And then you saw our section navigation and our MailChimp newsletter sign up. So that's how this page kind of exists, and how that works.
And just in general, I mean, these are the sorts of things, or as mentioned, you can put your video in a little block, and then you can repurpose that throughout the site if you wanted to.
Here's an example of that. So we have this same video playing here. Yeah.
Do you have an example of where you have the multiple players by any chance?
They don't have that. I mean, we don't, like the new one, like the sort of grid format. Let's see. That's pretty, I'm not sure if there are any live sites that are actually using that, because it came out, I think, just with this the last release, like 6 weeks ago.
It's interesting because we work with a number of clients to build their sites, but then there's all these other people that are independently doing their own sites, and so we don't have quite the view into what they're doing or how they're doing it. So sometimes coming up with,
there is one that I know that Joe sent us something. Like, I can dig around in my messages. I know that we do have something that, or is it in the? Well, there might be, is there anything in the documentation? But,
So I'm thinking of migrating, I have a bunch of like years of lecture
Mhm.
videos for the outreach program, and since if we can upload it, I actually think it's already uploaded to YouTube, then if I can create this grid of all of them, it'd be really great. The only thing is that we have, well, I wrote this functionality of chaptering through it, and so we haven't quite jumped off yet, only because it's long video. It's like an hour, sometimes 2 hours.
So like annotation and being
Exactly,
able to.
specific topics, scientific topics that maybe a teacher, because it's aimed at high school teachers. Kind of, they use it for classes, and sometimes they just jump to
yeah.
a section.
I do think we have at least like a demo site. Do you guys mind if I please keep talking? But if you don't mind, I'm gonna unplug and rifle through my email and
I
find it
can't
because I
find
know
this.
that we have it. It's someplace.
Yeah.
It's not like a real site or anything, but we